Welcome to Makers of Tomorrow, the podcast where each episode we talk with founders, industry leaders, and innovators to explore the latest trends shaping brands and the consumer experience.
We are your hosts, Karine Mallet and Corey Gottlieb, founders of Replica, the social selling platform revolutionizing how brands connect, inspire, and sell in today's digital world. So whether you're a brand leader, entrepreneur, or just fascinated by the evolution of digital commerce, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Today's guest is a former professional hockey player who saw a need and built a business in the beverage sector. Jack McNamara is a founder and CEO of Tru, a fast-growing functional beverage brand that's shaking up the wellness aisles with clean ingredients, real benefits, and a refreshing approach to building a modern brand. Let's dive in. Welcome, Jack. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to get things going.
Yeah, we're excited to have you.
You started as a professional hockey player. How did that experience shape your approach to entrepreneurship?
So my dad actually played professional ice hockey. So he played for the Maine Mariners, which is a step below the NHL. I have three brothers. We grew up competing in the front yard, and then we ended up playing college hockey, and we all played professionally. So growing up, it was all about putting the time in to be your best. And every day the goal was to just get a little bit better, whether it was off ice conditioning, on ice, and just giving it your all. So I think the biggest attribute there is taking that same mindset into building a brand, because no one's going to build a brand overnight. It's oftentimes that 10-year, 20-year overnight success. And honestly, that's the same with sports. No one's going to be the best hockey player in the world in their first year. So I've taken that same mindset. Interesting.
Any other sports allowed in your household?
Actually, my mom's the best athlete in the family. So she was athlete of the decade in the Big East. She played tennis at Boston College. Wow. But we're all letdowns in the tennis arena. So other sports are allowed. We're just not as good at them.
Fair. I just played tennis this morning, so I heard that. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. So what was your inspiration then to, start a company and build a brand? What did you see out there?
So I've always wanted to start a brand. Ever since I was younger, I've always thought it'd be really cool to essentially take an idea and bring it into reality, like a physical good that you can look, feel, touch. But ultimately I landed on beverages because every locker room I've been in from the age of 5 to 25, it was artificial energy drinks, sugary sports drinks, supplements that I couldn't read, write, or understand. So I naively was just like, hey, I think I can do this better. It was super naive because I had no background in beverage, no real background as like a dietitian. So I just decided to start doing my research and figure out a way to do it better. So I incorporated the business in 2015, participated in a couple of accelerator programs, Indiegogos, Kickstarters, and we just failed our way to success, essentially. And the goal was to never make the same mistake twice, and I think we've done a good job of that.
But lots of mistakes along the way. That's what happens, right? As an entrepreneur.
Yeah, we're like cockroaches. You just can't kill us. So it's a lot of guess and check, and like I said, if you're growing 1% or improving 1% each day, you're going to look back 1 week, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years from now and be very happy with the progress. And I do wish we were $1 billion brand already, but of course we're not. And I'm very happy with where we've come.
Well, it's funny because, as you know, Karine and I have a company together, and we always say, we incorporated in 2016, and we always say, it's just not moving at the pace that we want it to move at. We have a big client here and we're ready to sign it, and all of a sudden it doesn't happen and you get set back. But as long as you're making little incremental steps forward, it's what kind of fuels the entrepreneurial spirit in you. You're not being pushed back all the time. You're making some progress. And even though it's not progress as much as you want or as fast as you want, it's progress. So, any bit of progress is good when you're starting a business. So you saw a need. And so tell us about what you've developed. What is your product about? What are the key differentiators? Why should everybody buy it?
Yeah, so the product that we initially launched is essentially completely different than what we have today. And a lot of people essentially warned me of that. Is like, hey, Jack, the product that you think's perfect day one is going to be light years away from what it is 10 years from now. Right. And they were right. And in the moment I was like, you're wrong. So the initial product was essentially a natural competitor to 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy at the time was doing about $1 billion in sales on 94% of the market. And I did my limited research and said, oh, we could do this better. Long story short, they have first mover advantage. They have a product that really works. They have a perfect demographic for them. Their value proposition is super simple. We came to the market with unique package design. People didn't know if it was a liquid, a powder, a tablet. The product didn't taste as good. It was natural, but that demographic wasn't really the shot consumer anyways.
Right.
And then from a merchandising perspective, we put it into as many doors as possible and then realized it wasn't even being placed on shelves. So from there, we've continued to pivot. So the energy shot turned into wellness shots for focus and sleep and immunity. But our moment, the catalyst that really changed things was I was lucky enough to meet Ralph Crowley, who's the president at Polar Beverages. Polar's a phenomenal distributor in the Northeast. They're the largest independent bottler in the United States. I think they're a third generation family business that's been around for over 100 years.
Wow.
And from a local kid growing up in Massachusetts, like they are the beverage business. So I met him in 2016 and I annoyed the crap out of him for 5 years. And ultimately he said, Jack, I'm not going to get in the shot business, but you're right on trend with functional beverages. If you launch these shots and cans, I'll get behind you. A lot of people say that. He actually really held true to that, and he's held true to it ever since. They started distributing our product. They invested in the brand. They started manufacturing the product. Now they warehouse the product. And that's been a 10-year progression of being able to work with one of the best beverage businesses in the world.
But the first 5 years was bugging him to get his attention, right?
Exactly. It was
it's a valuable lesson if you think about it. I mean, it doesn't, nothing good happens overnight and that's sustainable.
Absolutely. And that's something I've tried to do my best in, is like, if you meet a great potential investor or a great retailer or who knows, a great potential hire, I do my best to keep them updated with our quarterly reports so that line of communication stays open, because just because it's a no today doesn't mean it's a no tomorrow. And the more you keep people engaged, the more likely they are to respect what you're doing and participate in the future.
It's actually a great lesson for entrepreneurs who may be listening to this. You know, we have a similar situation. We were told no by a person who turned out to be our key angel investor and who's been with us in every single round. We were told no several times. We took no as an opening to have more conversation, but we didn't do it disrespectfully. We came back with more reasons. We had, it was the right timing to go back. We didn't just keep bugging them and trying to turn a no into a yes. We continued to progress forward and give little snippets of information. And then all of a sudden there was that aha moment and said, like yours, if you do the functional beverages, I'm in. So, that's a really key lesson also when you find people who may be able to help move your business forward, but they're not seeing it as fast as you are. Keep in touch with them respectfully, put them on a newsletter or a regular cadence of key conversation, not a lot of asks. And then when you're ready, the ask is there and may be answered.
Absolutely.
And have patience.
To take a step further, like, don't always be that person just asking, like, try to add value the other way. And I forget the guy's name. There's someone who's pretty famous in Silicon Valley. He was always just trying to add value to deals. Fast forward 20 years, he's now participating in all the major deals because he was the guy always putting people together and asking for nothing in return. So right. I do believe there's a high level of karma in the world of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, for sure. Great.
So where are your products sold today?
So we have basically a 50-50 split between online and retail. Online, we sell on Amazon. We sell on our own Shopify website, drinktru.com. We sell on walmart.com. We sell at Fair. But in a retail environment, we do have a really good business in the Northeast, anchored by Polar, who's a distributor, and kind of the sub-distributor network inclusive of Right Distributing. And those retailers consist of like Market Basket, Wegmans. Then when you expand outward, we work with H-E-B, we work with Kroger in the Mid-Atlantic, we work with Meijer. So yeah, we have some really, really phenomenal partners. And the philosophy with anyone we work with is like, hey, our goal is not to work with you for a year. Our goal is to grow the business year over year over year and be a great partner. So right. A lot of communication.
Yeah. So who's your core customer? How would you describe your core customer?
Well, initially I thought it was going to be Lax Bros and hockey guys, and I couldn't be more off,
We
frankly.
did talk about this, and I'm like, hey, no rugby players? Come on.
Yeah, maybe rugby players. I don't actually know the demographic that perfectly, but it ended up being young working professionals, but between the ages of like 21 and 35. And then we also realized that certain products skewed differently to different demographics as well. So like our sleep product, True Dream, it actually skews a little older because sleep issues tend to be more prevalent in an older population versus our energy and focus skew, which are both caffeinated products, definitely skew more to that 21 to 31 age bracket. So what we've realized is really the young working professional who are label readers looking to live a more active lifestyle. But hey, we try to be everything for everyone, which is a marketing disaster. But I believe that people need better products.
Well, what's interesting about your products, and I'm glad you went over a couple of them individually. Each one of your products has a different name to it, obviously a different flavor to it, but also a different focus to it. So your functional beverage, just for those who didn't catch that in the beginning, is all about what mood are you in, or what are you looking for out of your beverage, and you do have beverages for that. So would just go through the quick ones that you have.
Yeah, so our goal is to elevate every moment from the time you wake up until the moment you go to sleep. So we have a great coffee alternative called True Energy. We have True Focus, which is for that 2 p.m. slump, which has nootropics and L-theanine. Refresh, which is our hydration formula, which is essentially a sports drink with carbonation. Glow, which is for hair, skin, and nails. We got Immune Support, which is defense. Dream to help sleep. So we kind of cover the gamut, and we're not the first ones to do this. I think a lot of people are like, wow, that's really innovative. At the end of the day, Vitamin Water did the same thing
Hmm.
20 years ago, and they did it beautifully, but they didn't have a carbonated product. And carbonation and clean labels are all the rage right now. So we're just trying to be a complement to them and in this new world.
It's amazing. All right, so now let's switch to the business side of it. You talked a little bit about your distribution. You talked about the early products and how you've pivoted from that. Very important lesson for entrepreneurs. Got to be ready to pivot and understand what the market is talking to you about. So now the next line of questioning is, tell us how you let people know about your products. What's your way of standing on top of the mountain and screaming about your products?
It used to be being everywhere. So running Meta ads, running Google ads, doing demos everywhere and anywhere we could possibly do it, having Amazon ads. But the key learning for us is it's really hard to be an expert if you're going all over the place. And it's trying to be an international brand and trying to be everything for everyone. That is really tough to do. So what we started doing is really doubling down on things that are working. So retailers like Market Basket, Wegmans, like we support them wholeheartedly because they support us, and it's a beautiful
Sure.
relationship. Amazon's the same sort of thing. So for Amazon, we realized that we had really strong growth potential there, and when we were spending money, it was working. So that's another area where we have a beautiful, awesome agency that supports us there too. And then on the Shopify side, we do some things there as well. So that's my long-winded way of saying instead of having 100 priorities, we've really narrowed it down to 5 to 10.
Pretty key. So if I heard you
But with
correctly,
go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead, Green.
With those retailers, how do you communicate your stories of your products so they can communicate it through the customers?
I mean, there's a few levers that you can pull. The easiest lever is promotions. So if you drive promotions, people get the yellow tag and okay, it's just like having a banner on a website. It's like, okay, that product looks more highlighted than any other product. I'm going to give it a chance. You can always essentially trick any customer into trying a product once, but you can never trick them into trying it twice. So
Right.
it either needs to deliver on its promise in an exceptional way or taste amazing. In a perfect world, it does both. Um, Honestly, the easiest way to do it is the old school way, which is liquid to lips. So Costco is a good example. We're actively doing Costco roadshows. We just did them in LA. Now we're doing them in the Midwest. We ran one roadshow over 4 days that delivered about 8,000 samples. There's
Amazing.
not really many environments where you can deliver 8,000 samples, get real customer feedback in real time, and potentially even break even on the initiative. Versus there's other retailers where it might cost $300 to run a sampling event and you might only see 50 customers. that's really hard to justify.
Right.
So that's one lever. Another lever is obviously the influencer side, which is a great lever to pull as well.
And so tell us about the influencer side. That's a little more nuanced, I would imagine. What types of influencers are you working with? And, kind of how do you see that whole avenue to help grow your business?
I mean, I think it's a huge avenue. If you look at the history of energy drinks over the past 10 years, it's really been brands that have blown up overnight, when in reality, it's been largely built on the backs of influencers. So it used to just be Red Bull, Monster, Rockstar, but then Bang Energy came out and had a ton of influencers back in the product. They exploded. Another brand that happened to was Celsius. If you look at how they did it, it wasn't just a package refresh or a change in design. It was really influencers pushing these brands in a really strategic way. Then it was C4, then it was Ghost, then it was Alani Nu. There was no major acquisitions for like a decade. And then in the past 2 years, there's been like 3 or 4 massive ones. So I think the influencer component is huge. We do work with more so on the micro influencer front. You can do that for setting up a Discord and essentially paying these influencers a retainer, or you can do it through TikTok affiliates, or you can work with amazing brands. But we do everything and anything with the exception of a major marquee influencer.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of brands have done a phenomenal job of partnering with 1 or 2 marquees, lighting the world on fire and exiting within 5 years. But
Right.
that story has also kind of gone up in flames in a lot of scenarios. So we want to do that, but we want to time it right.
Right. Well, there's definitely value. I mean, our business at Replica Software is to empower brands to organize their network of micro and nano influencers so they become a real force for you and somebody who will continue to espouse the benefits of your beverages and talk to their community and show it in different lights and different days and so forth. So they might be having one functional beverage at nighttime, and then the following day they're going out to do some kind of sports, and they might take one of the energy drinks. So it's constant communication. So obviously people talking about your brand is important. What percentage of your sales right now are wholesale versus e-com?
It's about 50-50,
Oh,
but it fluctuates year to year, quarter to quarter, depending on large retail orders. So if you land a retailer like a Costco, and then they all of a sudden put you in line in 4 regions, your 50-50 split might overnight switch to 75-25.
beautiful
I
problem to have.
it is a beautiful problem to have. The difference is e-com is a lot easier to forecast. So I spend X, I'm likely going to get Y out of
Mm-hmm.
it. Retail, you might go from $100,000 to $10 million in sales. You then have to adjust manufacturing forecasts aggressively, invest against that inventory, and you're only as good as your previous data. So if they ultimately decide, hey, you missed the mark by 1%, your business goes back from 10 million down to $100,000 like that. And you
Right.
don't see that in an e-commerce environment as frequently. It still can happen.
Yeah, and you have less control, right? Because it's all happening within their environment. So, maybe your beverage has moved to a different shelf. Maybe you don't have the end aisle displays anymore. There might be so many reasons that are out of your control. Is there a way that you can kind of monitor that? Or,
Definitely. And the answer is not necessarily the answer that most entrepreneurs want to hear, and it's growing slower. You don't need to say yes to everything. We've been guilty of it. Like if you say yes to everything, oftentimes you have to pay for crazy amounts of slotting fees. And that happened to us early on. We had an opportunity to launch 2 pretty big regional retailers for 7 SKUs. We had no data to suggest that all 7 SKUs were going to perform. We said yes, and we're talking 6-figure investments. In hindsight, what I would have done is say, hey, let's just lean into these 4 SKUs. If it's successful, then let's add a fifth, let's add a sixth, let's add a
right.
seventh. Same on Costco. It's like even if you have the opportunity to go nationwide, it's not necessarily the right choice for Costco, and it's not necessarily the right choice for the brand.
Right. That's such a great lesson because we've seen this before. A big potential customer comes in, you get all excited. Oh my God, I just have to do for us this level of programming. It'll cost me 100 grand. But once I do that, I've got this major retailer with stores all around the world and it's going to be great. And somehow the deal doesn't go down and you end up spending the money up front to get the client and you don't get the client. So that's a very important young entrepreneur learning lesson. And by young, I'm not talking about age. I'm talking about, your first few entrepreneurial ventures, understanding that somebody's going to be interested in your product because of what you have today and the potential for the future. So if you think that way, buy what I have today, let's prove it out and then build it. It's why we do proof of concepts with a lot of our clients, just for that very reason. It's like, and nobody ever leaves once they try it, on a POC, then we build from there. We'll build them special features or whatever, same thing you're talking about. So that's a really important lesson to learn.
So who do you lean on for mentorships and guidance during tough decisions?
Oi, I have a village of people that kind of support me and challenges that I have. So I actually, starting Tru, I ended up living in a gym for 5 years, and it was essentially a big warehouse that had a gym within it, and then like a 200 square foot little room. And the window in that room looked into a squat rack. So I lived there for 5 years. But the person who owned this place, this guy Warren Cross, owned six or seven businesses, very successful entrepreneur, and he kind of took me under his wing, and he kind of helped me think about, how do I build the business? How do I really scale efficiently, intelligently? So he was kind of my biggest mentor for the first 5 years in the business. Since then, I obviously keep him close, but now I have kind of mentors in specific areas of the business, whether it's marketing. We have a phenomenal board member, this guy Scott, who's actually CEO of a tremendous brand in the spice industry. And then another one, John Watsonis, who's with Polar Beverages, who's a distribution expert. So I think there comes a point where you work with generalists, and then as you scale the brand, you really need to have dynamite mentors in specific areas of the business, right. And try to work with people who are 2 or 3 steps ahead so that they can help you avoid the pitfalls.
Yeah. Do you stay in touch with any of the people you met in your earlier accelerator programs? People who were starting young companies and just going through the same journey you're going through at the same time?
Absolutely. There was one accelerator that we participated in called FoodX, which was backed by SOS Ventures. And there was one other group that we really got along well with, a group called Busy Coffee. And both them and us lived in the office because we wanted to take that accelerator investment and invest it in the business.
Absolutely.
As opposed to invest it in New York City rent.
Right.
So we did that, and long story short, you look back and that business is crushing it right now. So check out Busy Coffee for sure. Those guys are grinders. And I think it just goes to show you.
I see what you did there with the grinders.
But I just like, hey, they were all in. And I think you need to be all in to win.
Well, yeah. And I think just the genesis of my question was, being an entrepreneur could be a lonely experience. I mean, you may have people working for you, you have all these responsibilities, whatever. So there's people around, but they're not necessarily the people who can support you, the founder, who's got all the skin in the game, really putting it back up against the wall. And it's nice to sometimes have a network of people, whether it be people who are going through the same thing at the same time with different companies, or people with certain types of vested interest in your own company. That network of people that you can really rely on just for answer questions or bounce ideas off the wall, is absolutely key. I don't know many entrepreneurs we've talked to on this podcast that haven't had a network of people they can reach out to get things done.
Well, my wife is actually an entrepreneur as well. So our dinners typically revolve around venting or strategizing about the day. So she's in the clothing industry. Her brand's called 1987. So I'm very lucky and grateful to have someone that I can always bounce ideas off of. And she also runs an incredible business. So yeah, I'm very lucky in that respect.
And then helps you clean up after dinner.
Exactly. Well, she's the phenomenal cook. I'm the one who's supposed to clean after.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah. I got that. So what does success look like for you as you look forward, 3-5 years from now? What is what does success look like?
Well, I think it's a couple things. One is anyone who works for Tru, my goal is that they either grow within the business and end up being a phenomenal leader within this business, or end up going on to another business and essentially accelerating their growth. And there's a few people that are actually no longer with Tru, but I'm really happy and excited to see where they've gone since. So that's one thing for me that I feel strongly of. Two is having real impact. So Tru has actually donated $35,000 in cash, despite being a nonprofit generating business. So whether it survives or not, I'm really proud of us having impact in that way. I think impact from a perspective of like removing sugar and replacing a lot of, quite frankly, harmful ingredients in the United States and across the world with products that I feel very strongly of. And I don't believe in a perfect product either. So we're always trying to reformulate. So we're in the process of that now. It's like, hey, can we remove this, and this ingredient to provide an even better experience for our customers? Because there's a real problem with the food system. And then lastly, obviously, continue to grow year over year, and
Right.
hopefully someday being one of the big brands doing $1 billion in sales and continuing to enjoy the journey.
And we can say we knew you when.
Right back at you.
So, if a founder came to you with a new beverage idea, what would you tell them not to do?
I used to say jump right in and just figure it out and you're going to have a blast along the way. I think it's really bad advice. I think the real advice is to leverage as much learnings, as much mentors as possible, and make sure you really want to do this, because it's not something that you quit your job and you pray for 6 months that it's going to work out. It's beverage industry. I don't know many brands that have exited prior to 10 years in the business. So know what you're getting yourself into, know that it's really expensive. And the only way to avoid those expenses is education. And I don't mean necessarily college or MBA education, but an education by talking to founders who have done it, or watching YouTube, or leveraging AI. There were so many mistakes we could have avoided and been in a much better position now if I had done that.
Well, again, that's about the network of people, about, the people you surround yourself with, accelerator programs you go to. I mean, I know for us, we were in a very key accelerator program from LVMH in the early days, and it gave us some validation that they recognized us and then piloted us for a few of their brands, including Sephora, which is like a godsend for us. And, but we still to this day keep in touch with companies from that that time, and recall back with people that we met at LVMH. And I mean, building that network and slowly getting your group of people that you can draw on is absolutely key. It's a lonely job being an entrepreneur. And, again, and you've made some personal sacrifices. I think you told us you've moved from the Boston area, and you've had to do a lot of moves just to kind of make sure your business is ready to go and you're on top of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, the first accelerator I participated in was actually in Denmark while I was playing pro hockey. There was an opportunity to do that, and then I moved to New York City, participated in 2 accelerators there, moved back home, living at home, then living in a gym. So it has been there has been a lot of sacrifices on paper, but I've truly enjoyed every step of the journey, with the exception of fundraising when your back's against the wall. Like that's not fun, but ultimately, if you can succeed through that, it's a point of pride for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, then most recently, my wife and I moved to Texas to scale the business, and some would be like, "Oh, that's a huge sacrifice." I've always wanted to kind of live out here and experience a new place and meet new people, so it's been a blessing.
You still remain loyal to your Boston teams?
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Okay.
Bruins, Red Sox, Celtics.
I would imagine with your brothers, you can't abandon.
No, never. You can never abandon. We're loyal. We're loyal at Tru, and we're loyal as Bostonians.
That's fair. Well, listen, Jack, this has been awesome. Thanks for sharing your journey with us from the ice rink to beverage aisles. It's been an incredible ride. It's inspiring to see how far Tru has come. I have tasted Tru. We spoke about this several times. I think it's amazing. And we're really looking forward to seeing how much further you could bring this brand. For the listeners, if you're curious to try Tru, and that's TRU, for yourself, or want to learn more about their clean functional beverages, head over to drinktru.com. So that's DRINK tru.com. And again, Jack, really enjoyed having you on the show. Thanks you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed sharing the story.
Thank you, Jack.